Hi guys, welcome back. In the previous video, we discussed about the factors affecting consumption since we were discussing aggregate demand. So we had to see that what are the factors that influence aggregate demand, meaning what could shift AD to the left or right. And we're done with consumption spending, and now we're going to be moving towards discussing what investment is as the second component of AD, as the second component of spending across the aggregate economy. That is, we're talking about investment that is done by firms, right? But before I move on to, and by the way, we have already discussed what investment is under GDP of spend when we were discussing GDP under spending method, and later on as well we discussed what investment is. But I'll do a very quick recap on investment before we start on with the factors that actually influence investment. But before that, what I wanted to show you guys was that I just wanted to show you some questions on ADS, but I also at the same time wanted to let you know that you cannot attempt these questions right now because you need to understand that whatever questions there are in the past papers for AD or AS, they will automatically transition and link you to chapters like inflation, unemployment, and economic growth. So a separate question on ADAS entirely will not be coming, but you will be using these concepts over there. So you need to hang on till we are done with the chapter of inflation. For instance, you can see the question which says, but just to at least you must have an idea. It says, with the help of diagrams, explain one reason for an increase in AD and one reason for an increase in AS, and consider whether an increase in AD will always lead to inflation. Good question to attempt. And by the way, मैं आप लोगों को इतनी अच्छी इस पर इतनी डिटेल नॉलेज दूंगा जब इवैल्यूएशन पे भी कि आपको ये बहुत ईजी लगने लगेंगे क्वेश्चंस. एक्सप्लेन 3 components of AD and consider the extent to which they may be increased without leading to inflation. More or less इसका ये वाला part, consider whether increase in AD will always lead to inflation and consider the extent to which they may lead to inflation. I mean, they may be increased without leading to inflation. ये थोड़ा मिलते जुलते हैं because I'm going to be teaching you the Keynesian aggregate supply curve, where we're going to be discussing that not all increase in aggregate demand results in inflationary pressures, especially when we have a lot of spare capacity across the economy. But anyways, with the help of a diagram, explain how increase in aggregate demand affects the level of real output and price level, real GDP and price level, that is inflation, and consider whether such increases may be a problem. Again, a question directly from inflation. Assess whether increase in AD are the best way in reducing unemployment in a high income country. Now again, they're using, obviously because ADAS का जो model है वो use होता है in understanding chapters like inflation, unemployment and growth, right? So इसलिए you must make sure that you're watching these videos properly and making notes as well. Now guys, moving on to investment. Investment हम already discuss कर चुके हैं. Investment, basically we're talking about investment spending here as a component of AD. So we're talking about an investment, हम पढ़ चुके हैं क्या होती है investment, जो expenditure हम investment जो प्राइवेट सेक्टर फर्म्स कर रही होती हैं इकोनॉमी पे, जो एक्सपेंडिचर्स हम इंक्लूड कर रहे होते हैं, टॉकिंग अबाउट कैपिटल फॉर्मेशन हेयर. ठीक है, talking about capital formation that is basically included as part of investment spending. So investment spending is basically your total spending by the firms on goods and services that are used for future production, right? ये आपकी टेक्निकल डेफिनेशन है. स्पेंडिंग ऑन कैपिटल गुड्स भी अगर आप लिखेंगे तो देखें बात ये होती है कि लिखने का आपका वोकैबुलरी कितनी है. आप स्पेंडिंग ऑन कैपिटल गुड्स इसलिए लिख कर आ रहे हैं बिकॉज दैट्स ऑल व्हाट यू नो, राइट? बट देयर आर स्टूडेंट्स हु आर प्रॉब्ली 10 steps ahead of you as well. ठीक है, सो आप लिखेंगे दिस इंक्लूड्स एक्सपेंडिचर्स. क्या है ये, हम क्या पढ़ रहे हैं? व्हाट इज इन्वेस्टमेंट? इन्वेस्टमेंट इंक्लूड्स एक्सपेंडिचर्स बाय बिजनेसेस की बात कर रहे हैं हम, बाय फर्म्स की बात कर रहे हैं, प्राइवेट बिजनेसेस की बात कर रहे हैं, ऑन कैपिटल गुड्स सच एज मशीनरी, इक्विपमेंट, टूल्स, एज वेल एज स्पेंडिंग ऑन कंस्ट्रक्शंस लाइक न्यू फैक्ट्रीज, ऑफिसेज, रेजिडेंशियल हाउसिंग. तो ये सब आपकी इन्वेस्टमेंट का हिस्सा है, नॉट जस्ट मशीनरी एंड इक्विपमेंट एंड प्लांट. दूसरी चीज़ ये कि देखें, इन्वेस्टमेंट खाली प्राइवेट फर्म्स तो नहीं करते, इन्वेस्टमेंट गवर्नमेंट भी कर रही होती है. ठीक है, और तो गवर्नमेंट जो इन्वेस्टमेंट कर रही होती है वो इन्वेस्टमेंट कहाँ हम रिकॉर्ड करते हैं? वो हम रिकॉर्ड करते हैं गवर्नमेंट स्पेंडिंग जी के अंदर. दैट इज द गवर्नमेंट स्पेंडिंग. AD इक्वल्स टू C+I+G. तो गवर्नमेंट स्पेंडिंग का जो जी का कंपोनेंट है दैट विल इंक्लूड नॉट ओनली गवर्नमेंट कंजम्पशन ऑन गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज बट गवर्नमेंट इन्वेस्टमेंट एज वेल. ठीक है, तो हम उसको वहां इंक्लूड करेंगे. लेकिन जो आपका नेशन की टोटल इन्वेस्टमेंट है, दैट टोटल इन्वेस्टमेंट दैट इज हैपनिंग, दैट ग्रॉस कैपिटल फॉर्मेशन जो हो रही है इकोनॉमी में उस साल, दैट इज नॉट ओनली इंक्लूडिंग योर प्राइवेट इन्वेस्टमेंट बट गवर्नमेंट इन्वेस्टमेंट एज वेल. ठीक है, तो लेकिन हम गवर्नमेंट इन्वेस्टमेंट्स को दैट इज कॉजिंग ग्रॉस कैपिटल फॉर्मेशन हम उसको जी में इंक्लूड कर देंगे. ठीक है, तो आई के अंदर इन्वेस्टमेंट्स, आई का जो कंपोनेंट है एडी का, राइट, ये जो आई कंपोनेंट है, this is basically including the I component basically is including your प्राइवेट इन्वेस्टमेंट. सो प्राइवेट इन्वेस्टमेंट के तीन मेजर कंपोनेंट्स हैं. ये कोई नई चीज़ नहीं है, हम पहले वीडियोस में देख चुके हैं. इट्स टॉकिंग अबाउट योर बिजनेस परचेजेस ऑफ प्लांट एंड इक्विपमेंट, न्यू होम कंस्ट्रक्शन. आपको पता है कि न्यू रेजिडेंशियल हाउसिंग कंस्ट्रक्शन जो है वो इन्वेस्टमेंट स्पेंडिंग होगी, कैपिटल फॉर्मेशन का पार्ट होगी. एंड चेंजेस इन इन्वेंट्रीज एज वेल, इन्वेंट्री चेंजेस भी इन्वेस्टमेंट का पार्ट होगा. मैंने यहाँ पे कुछ स्क्रीनशॉट्स डाले हुए हैं बुक के, इसको गो थ्रू कर लीजिएगा, थोड़ी पिक्चर से आपको अंडरस्टैंडिंग हो जाएगी. इसको भी पढ़ लेना. ये वही चीज़ लिखी हुई है कि टोटल इन्वेस्टमेंट ड्यूरिंग द ईयर इज द सम ऑफ प्राइवेट इन्वेस्टमेंट एंड गवर्नमेंट इन्वेस्टमेंट. यानी टोटल इन्वेस्टमेंट अगर आपको इकोनॉमी में देखनी हो तो ये बेसिकली इसका पार्ट होती है. बेसिकली इसका पार्ट होती है, मतलब कि इट इंक्लूड्स द सम ऑफ प्राइवेट एंड गवर्नमेंट इन्वेस्टमेंट. दूसरी चीज़ ये कि जब आप आंसर लिख रहे होते हैं और आप लिख रहे हो कि भाई इंक्रीज इन इन्वेस्टमेंट विल इंक्रीज एडी, तो आप स्पेसिफाई करें कि आप किसकी बात कर रहे हैं. ज़रूरी नहीं है, हम अगर फर्म्स की इन्वेस्टमेंट की बात करें तो हम आई कॉम्पोनेंट को टच करेंगे. गवर्नमेंट इन्वेस्टमेंट की बात कर रहे हैं, अगर कर रहे हैं कि द गवर्नमेंट इज इन्वेस्टिंग ऑन इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्रोजेक्ट्स, लेट्स से, सो दैट इज कैपिटल फॉर्मेशन ना, राइट. इफ द गवर्नमेंट इज डेवलपिंग रोड्स, सही है, एंड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर एंड बिल्डिंग्स और अ डैम, दैट इज कैपिटल फॉर्मेशन. तो वो गवर्नमेंट इन्वेस्टमेंट में जी के कंपोनेंट में आएगा. अपार्ट फ्रॉम गवर्नमेंट स्पेंडिंग ऑन वेजेस एंड सैलरीज एंड कंजम्पशन, गवर्नमेंट इज ऑल्सो बायर ऑफ फाइनल गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज ना. तो गवर्नमेंट कंजम्पशन भी हिस्सा गवर्नमेंट स्पेंडिंग का है. ठीक है, और हम लेकिन समझ गए बात को, तो वो उसमें हम इंक्लूड करेंगे जी में. ओके गाइस, तो ये छोटी सी चीज़ आपको बतानी थी. अब हम क्या शुरू कर रहे हैं, अब हम शुरू कर रहे हैं कि वो क्या फैक्टर्स हैं. अगर उन फैक्टर्स में एक्सोजेनस चेंज आया तो इन्वेस्टमेंट बाय फर्म्स इन्फ्लुएंस होगी. आइदर इट कुड गो अप और इट कुड गो डाउन एंड हेंस अकॉर्डिंगली शिफ्ट द एग्रीगेट डिमांड कर्व टू द राइट और लेफ्ट. एंड नाउ लेट्स डिस्कस द फैक्टर्स दैट अफेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट. नाउ गाइस, कमिंग टू द फैक्टर्स दैट अफेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट दैट यू कैन सी ऑन योर स्क्रीन्स राइट नाउ, डू रिमेंबर द फैक्ट दैट if any of these factors independently or exogenously change, they will have an effect on investments, and that will cause the aggregate demand curve to shift inwards and outwards. And these would be resulting into, demand shocks across the wider economy, either positive or negative demand shocks, causing AD to shift inwards and outwards and subsequently affecting the growth rates in the economy, because when AD would go up and down, it would affect growth and employment levels in the economy as well. Now, how will that affect the growth and employment levels? That's not the discussion right now. That we will see in the later chapters. But anyways, looking at the first factor that affect investment, is interest rate. So let's say that the monetary, policy changes for the economy, and the central bank just, announces the other day that they have reduced the interest rates across the economy. So these are exogenous changes. It will bring about changes in investment, hence shifting AD, right? So if interest rates, let's say, go down, right, if there's a cut in interest rate by the central bank, it reduces the cost of borrowing for firms as well, because interest rates not only affect consumption but also investment for firms, because it reduces the cost of borrowing for firms, which enables them to sort of borrow more, because it makes financing, it basically reduces the cost of financing new capital, right? Because basically the cost of borrowing goes down, and that actually stimulates. Now, stimulating is another good economic word that you can use. That stimulates investment and hence stimulating aggregate demand, shifting the AD curve outwards, right? While if the interest rates goes up, it makes borrowing expensive, which reduces investments as the cost of financing new capital increases. So basically, that would cause investment spending by the firms to go down, investment spending by the firms, basically, that we're talking about, to decrease, right? The second important factor is business confidence. And when we talk about business confidence, basically, we're talking about how confident businesses are in the capabilities of the economy to sort of provide a favorable economic landscape, which will ultimately provide a favorable or an unfavorable business landscape for the business community or for the firms, basically. And business confidence jo hota hai, that is determined by the level of future demand in the economy, and hence the expected profitability that businesses have, or they sort of predict or estimate. right? So if business confidence is high, it means that firms are very bullish. इसको bullish का word use होता है, bullish, BULLISH. Firms are bullish about the future state of the economy, and they're like full hyped up and pumped up, and they want to invest money into the economy, right? So they are bullish about the future state of the economy because they expect that in future, whatever money they're putting in, they're building new plants, technology, equipment, all of that. So ultimately, that will end up producing goods and services, and there would be demand for their goods and services, right? So they expect that yes, there would be demand for their products, and hence there is a certain expected level of profitability, so they would invest, right? And across the economy, right? All this would be the behavior of firms across the economy. And if that is the firm, so basically a boom period mein hoga when the economy is doing well, there's economic growth in the economy, and the growth in the economy is creating an optimistic environment for businesses, allowing more investments to take place. However, if However, if firms predict a recession, they are predicting an economic downturn, they are predicting that the economy is going to slow down and ultimately a recession will fall into place, then they would expect that growth rates would decline, and hence the business confidence would be very low, and as a result of that, businesses would not invest or invest less. As a result, the level of investment spending in the economy would go down, shifting aggregate demand to the left, right? Because this is basically business pessimism. तो recessions अगर expected हैं और recession अगर है भी, let's say, तो investments गिर रही होती हैं, और but on the other hand, अगर expected boom है तो optimism होगा, businesses would invest because they're optimistic about the future state of the economy. So higher confidence would encourage firms to invest into new projects and new capital and equipment and factory buildings and plant expansion, right? All of that. And similarly, another important factor that affects your investment spending is the level of corporation tax. Now, corporation tax is the tax on business profits. ये जो corporation tax होता है, जैसे हमने income tax पढ़ा था, that was tax on business income. Sorry, income tax पढ़ा था, that was tax on people's incomes, right? Workers' incomes. Individual, ये जो corporation tax होता है, this is tax on business के profits पे होता है. जो उनका फाइनल प्रॉफिट आता है आफ्टर डिडक्टिंग ऑल द एक्सपेंसेस फ्रॉम द रेवेन्यूज. सो वो जो प्रॉफिट होता है उस पर जो टैक्स लगता है, इट्स कॉल्ड कॉर्पोरेशन टैक्स इन इकोनॉमिक्स. एंड if and the thing is that corporation tax, which is a tax on business profits, if that decreases, let's say, this will increase the retained profits for the firms, and retained profits are profits that are available after the deduction of the corporation taxes. So it will increase the profits for the firm, which will make it easier for them to finance investment. Sometimes देखें, business जो होता है ना, अपनी investments को finance करता है अपने खुद के retain earnings से, profit से, या फिर बैंक से लोन लेके. तो अगर आपके level of corporation tax decline कर जाएगा, so there will be more profit available for reinvestment purposes, right? More retained profits available, and as a result would make it easier for them to finance investment, and as a result investment would increase. However, on the other hand, if let's say what happens is that the business taxes basically increase, right? If business taxes go up, then the profit after tax would fall, and there would be less taxes available for investments, and that could potentially have an impact on the investment spending by firms, right? It will decrease and AD will shift to the left in that case. ठीक है. सो ये एक चीज़ हो गई. दूसरा इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर कैपेसिटी यूटिलाइजेशन का है. देखिए, आपको समझना पड़ेगा कि आपकी इकोनॉमी में एक सर्टन लेवल ऑफ कैपेसिटी है. देयर इज अ सर्टन लेवल ऑफ प्रोडक्टिव कैपेसिटी दैट द इकोनॉमी can end up producing, right? So whatever the factors of production are, whatever your natural resources are, whatever the state of technology, land, labor, capital that the economy has, हम firm की बात नहीं कर रहे हैं, हम economy के resources की बात कर रहे हैं. तो जो भी तो आपकी economy की capacity होती है, ठीक है? और similarly, that economy की जो capacity है, that is basically representation of the capacity of the businesses, right? And so if the closer you are, the closer the businesses are to, the closer the businesses are operating to full capacity, or agar generally businesses across the economy are operating closer to full capacity, it means that the economy is operating closer to full capacity, right? So the closer businesses are operating closer to full capacity, the greater the greater would be their incentive to invest in order to satisfy any future increase in demand across the economy, right? Because you see, firms would then require newer space, newer factory space, newer machinery, or updated softwares or technology in order to increase their capacity, and in order to produce more, because they are closer to, they're very close to exhausting their capacity. So if businesses across the economy are operating near their capacity or closer to full capacity, they may invest in additional capital to expand their output, right? But on the other hand, if they have a lot of unused capacity, if businesses have a lot of spare capacity, then firms might delay new investment, right? They might delay new gross capital formation or new capital formation because simply new gross capital formation would simply further enhance capacity, and they already have a lot of unused capacity, right? So firms may delay new investment, unless and until demand increases, and again firms are fully utilizing or close, they are basically in a position to use up all the existing capacity and sort of reach full capacity. And as soon as they reach closer to full capacity or full employment, full capacity utilization, closer to full capacity utilization, they would start investing more. So there would be more. They'll start investing more. So gross capital formation would go up, and hence which simply means investment spending is going up, right? So the amount of capacity utilization has an impact. Another factor is the rate of growth in technology and competition. You see, the thing is that the higher the rate of growth in technology, right? The higher the rate of growth in technology is, and the higher the competition in the market is, right? The more would be the investments in the economy, because businesses will not want to lose market share to rivals, especially if there's very much competition in the market. So if you have a business environment, a competitive business environment, or an economic system that promotes competitiveness, then the businesses over there would want to flourish, and that would require investing in new capital in order to keep themselves ahead in the market share, right? The businesses would not want to lose market share to rivals. They would always want to be one step ahead, and they would use better technology to sort of entice their customers, or they may also try to use better technology to lower their cost of production and come up with more technologically advanced equipment and plant and machinery in order to lower their cost of production, and thus translate those lower costs in the form of charging lower prices to consumers, and hence compete through the price competition by getting ahead of rivals, right? Therefore, the higher or the greater the competition, यहाँ पे greater the competition हम business टर्म्स में यूज़ नहीं कर रहे, द ग्रेटर द कंपेटिटिव इकोनॉमिक लैंडस्केप की बात कर रहे हैं यहाँ पे हम. इकोनॉमिक एनवायरनमेंट आपका बड़ा कंपेटिटिव है. There's encouragement. There are more MNCs coming up in the economy that are giving you a tough time, so you have to compete. So हम उस holistic एक longer holistic view ले रहे हैं यहाँ पे, right? So we are not studying a individual business here, right? So more would be the investment spending across the economy in that case. So the thing is, also do remember the fact. Also at times, so again, economic competitive landscape will definitely play an important part, and overall भी अगर आपका technological advancements हो रही होती हैं economy में, so that itself has and the economic conditions, that itself has a positive impact on growth and incomes across the economy, right? So it improves your economic indicators as well, and that could have an impact on business optimism, and that could possibly lead to more investment spending as well, right? And if there is more advancement in technology, if technological advancement is taking place, also remember that technological advancement can also make your existing machinery and equipment obsolete as well, and it may sort of, so if your overall landscape, economic landscape, is very competitive and there's a lot of technological advancement taking place which is making your existing machinery and equipment obsolete, then that may also prompt firms to invest in newer and more efficient technology because of the competitive economic landscape that the country has. Maybe the government has policies that encourage such sort of a competitive environment, just like we see in the US, in America, right? They have a very competitive economic landscape because of the fact that the economy itself encourages free market, encourages the free market system. So so the fact that firms would be forced to invest in newer and more efficient technology. So again, this type of investment is very important and crucial for maintaining competitiveness in an economy that is constantly evolving, with global MNCs, coming in as well, and also in an economy that involves rapidly evolving, industries. So hence your economy would witness a rise in investment spending. तो देखें, ये सब factors हैं जो potential investment spending को influence कर सकते हैं, that can have a potential impact on your aggregate demand shifting outwards, right? So guys, that's investment, and I think I'm going to be keeping the video till here. So any of these factors that will affect investment would either shift the AD to the right or to the left. And in the next video, we're going to be discussing about government spending and the factors that affect government spending. See you in that video, and thank you so much for watching. Until then, take care.